If you're building a product with AI in 2026, one decision is quietly deciding whether your side project hits $10,000 MRR or becomes just another half-built repo you never get to ship. And it's not your idea, it's not your coding model, it's not your coding agent either. It's your tech stack. It's the invisible foundation your entire product runs on. And your AI agent is dramatically more fluent in some stacks than others. Pick the wrong one on day one, and your coding agent will burn 3 to 5 times more tokens. It'll hallucinate for hours and turn what should have been a 2-week MVP into a 3-month death march. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's not. I have watched this happen to smart founders, and I've had it happen to me, but nobody's talking about it because AI coding benchmarks just tells you how good a model is at coding in general, and that ever-increasing number doesn't tell you the whole story. Here's what the benchmarks do not show you. A current crop of AI coding models, whether it be Claude, GPT, Qwen, GLM, all have been trained on overwhelmingly more amount of code from a select few languages and frameworks. And this proficiency is directly proportional to how much public code exists for that language or framework. Pick something off the beaten path, and the coding agent is kind of flying blind. And for founders like us, it is not just theoretical, it's real money. Like I said earlier, a language or framework your coding model isn't fluent in can mean 3 times to 5 times the token burn. Multiply that over months of building, and you're looking at thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours bled out just because you picked the wrong language or framework on day one. And the tokens aren't even the worst of it. If you're a non-technical founder and using an AI app builder to build your product, you're probably not even allowed to choose a tech stack. The AI app builder chooses it for you. And you certainly don't want a tech stack that fights you when you try to scale. Anyway, before we dive deep into the topic at hand, let me introduce myself. I am Ankit Chaudhary, founder of Mantis Pro Gaming. I have been an entrepreneur and builder for over 15 years now. I've turned down offers from a number of MANG companies just to work on my startup. And I believe this is a truly special moment in the history of entrepreneurship. A solo founder armed with the right AI systems can now move faster than a funded startup could 5 years ago. And that's what Founder Frequency is all about. If you're building solo with AI, this channel is custom built for you. Hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. Alright, in case you're a non-technical founder and you're not aware what a tech stack even is, in this context especially, it is a set of technology choices your app runs on. Think of it as 4 essential layers needed for every app. Frontend is what the user sees and interacts with. Backend is where the logic stays and make these interactive elements on screen work in a meaningful manner. Database is where the data lives, and infra is where all of the above lives once deployed. It means the servers and the platforms that actually serve your app to the users on the internet. Now, if you've been building with an AI app builder like Lovable, Bolt, or V0, you might not even know which language or framework your product is actually built on. And for most of your MVP journey, you don't need to know. I understand that. But the moment you want to do anything complex with real backend logic, full control of your data, a different way of doing things maybe, that hidden stack becomes a cage. So let's rip open the hood and see exactly what each of these AI tools are using behind the scenes and what that convenience is actually costing you. Okay, let's look at Lovable. So it generates a TypeScript-based React, Tailwind, Vite frontend with Supabase responsible for the backend. Supabase here is doing the heavy lifting basically. It handles the database, auth, file storage, auto-generated REST APIs over database, any custom backend logic, and your backend logic is written in TypeScript running on Dino. Sounds like a dream at the beginning, but you could get locked in very fast. At number 2 is Bolt.new. It spins up Node.js environment, so everything front end and back end is JavaScript or TypeScript. In practice, Bolt.new can run any JavaScript framework that runs on Node. For database, it used to use Supabase, where you could link to your Supabase account, but apparently now it defaults to something called Bolt database, which is essentially Supabase, but the project is owned by Bolt. Interesting, really. Next up, at number 3 is V0 by Vercel, which generates a TypeScript-based Next.js app with Tailwind and ShatCN for UI. Next.js is full-stack framework, so it handles both sides, React server and client components on the front end, server actions and route handlers on the back end, running on Node.js or Vercel's Edge runtime. There is no bundled database as such. V0 hooks into Vercel's marketplace integration, whether it be Neon for Postgres, Supabase, Upstash for Redis, and Auth via auth.js clerk Supabase. It is cleaner and less locked in than Lovable or Bolt on the data side, but your deployment is tightly married to Vercel. and that can be a massive issue. Now, having gone through these options thoroughly, I do understand the selling point. I completely do. There is this massive convenience of a single integrated platform, whether it be previewing, iterating, and deploying. All of it is super easy. You don't need and probably even don't want to care what's going on behind the scenes, as long as the app looks and functions correctly. But all these AI app builders are heavily opinionated with respect to the tech stacks, which means they're going for a one style fits all system, which in reality rarely works. At least I have not seen it work properly. Also, most of these AI app builders go thin on the backend side of things. Things are improving now, but it makes it very difficult to build anything complex with it. And boy, are such tools infamous for writing anti-pattern code. This can soon lead to unmanageable code, as you have little to no control over the folder structure, architecture, or state management. But I guess that is the trade-off you knowingly are signing up for, considering the speed and convenience these AI app builders provide. Because which framework is best is only half the question today. The real question is, which language or framework is your coding agent actually fluent enough in, so that you can ship your product without wasting months of your life. So I tested every major one and I've tiered them, and I'm going to walk you through the rankings, plus the 2 philosophies you can use to pick your stack from here on out. This changes how you build. Now let's get into this. So here's the tier list. Every major language, every major framework ranked. Now let's start with languages first. I am ranking the languages and frameworks into 5 tiers. The S tier, which means it's absolutely amazing. Then there's A, B, C, D. In the S tier, there are these 3 undisputed languages. So there's Python, there's JavaScript, and there's TypeScript, as you would have expected. These are the languages that our current crop of coding models have devoured the most public code from GitHub, from Stack Overflow, from open source libraries, all of it. Which means the agents basically one-shot this stuff consistently. The output is near flawless. Stable syntax, predictable patterns. If you're starting something new and you can pick a language right now, it has to be one of these 3. Just go for it. Next up, in the A tier, I am putting 2 languages that you may or may not have expected. There's Java and there's Go. These are still incredibly strong. Huge training corpus, clean, stable grammar. Agents ship production quality code in both. The only minor catch is that generics in Java can occasionally trip the models up. But for a product grade choice, it's absolutely safe. B tier, there are 6 languages that I've put. There's C#, there's Kotlin, there's C, there's Ruby, there's PHP, and there is Swift. And this is where it starts to get kinda interesting. The models handle standard patterns well. CRUD, business logic, the usual. But ask them to work inside a specific framework's idioms, whether it be Laravel, Swift UI, that kind of thing, and the quality starts slipping. It's still usable. Just plan on babysitting the agent a little more, and you'll be good. In the C tier, there are about 6 or 7 languages that I've put. This is what I call the error-prone zone. The models can technically write C++ and Rust, but memory management, lifetimes, ownership, that's where they hallucinate and ship subtle bugs. Scala, R, Perl, niche idioms that agents are missing constantly. Usable if you really need them, but it's not where I'd bet a product right now. And next up is the tier D, which I call the graveyard tier for AI coding. So in this tier, all of the languages have sparse training data, which means you should expect hallucinated APIs, broken syntax, and non-existent functions with confident sounding answers from the models. You love Haskell or Elixir, I respect it. But if you're building with an AI agent as your main dev, please don't. You'll spend more time correcting the agent than actually shipping. I would personally advise against it. Next up, we'll be ranking the frameworks into our tier architecture. In the S tier, there are 4 frameworks that I've kept, and this is essentially the native territory for the models. Because there's a decade or more of public code, there is massive training data available for the models. There are stable APIs. Agents basically one-shot anything you throw at them. So there's React for frontends, Fast API for Python APIs, Next.js for full stack, and Express for any Node.js backends. Pick any combo of these and the agent is going to fly. In tier A, there's Flask, Django, Node.js, Nest.js, Remake, and these are highly reliable frameworks on their own. And the models nail the core patterns on first try 9 out of 10 times. There are only minor catches like the Next.js app router, which is still evolving, and Remix v2 has breaking API changes the agents haven't fully caught up on. Flask and Django are rock solid for Python. Nest.js handles structured node apps very well. These are safe picks across the board. In tier B, I see there's Vue, there's Svelte, SvelteKit, Spring Boot, Laravel, Astro, Ruby on Rails. They are very good, but with a bit of nudging required, which is what you would expect if I've kept it in tier B. But it works well. In tier C, there is .NET, there's Angular, there is one of my favorites, Flutter, there's Swift UI, there's Jetpack Compose, and I have been personally working with Flutter and Jetpack Compose specifically, also a bit with Swift UI, and surprisingly, they have been decent, but there is significant amount of hand-holding that is needed, and that is the reality. In tier D, there's Qt, WinForms, CodeIgniter, Ember, Backbone. This is essentially the legacy graveyard, which I would advise you not to work with when you're trying to work with an AI agent. I would avoid it. Now that I've seen the rankings, here's where it gets practical. There are really only two ways to pick a tech stack in 2026. Two philosophies. Let me walk you through both essentially. Philosophy number one is the dev-led stack, where you, the founder or the developer, you pick a stack where you're already good at. You have command over the language and the framework. You've written real code in it. You know what good looks like, and you're confident you can guide the coding agent to your desired result because you can spot when it's wrong. You're going essentially with horses for courses logic, and that's completely valid. For a quick example, you pick Flutter and Dart for a multi-platform mobile app, even though the LLMs might code better in React Native because you believe Flutter apps are generally more performant. Maybe you understand the downsides. You're making an educated trade-off. That's the dev-led stack. Now, philosophy number two is what I call the agent-led stack. You pick the stack and you lean on your taste, your product sense, and whatever software engineering chops you've got to fill in the gap. This is the philosophy I personally run for my new web app MVPs. My current favorite combo is Next.js React Tailwind with MongoDB or maybe Postgres. It's blazing fast at runtime. There's hot reload that makes building genuinely fun. The whole stack is in one language, which is the TypeScript, and top coding models like Opus and Codex one-shot entire features. I am doing it right now. It's amazing. And deployment is just clicks on Vercel or DigitalOcean if you want more control. With this stack, you can churn out a full product in days. As a matter of fact, I have linked a GumflowAI flow which you can share with Claude. Use the MCP and it'll set up a new project with this stack completely for you in just one click. Just give it a go. And look, at the end of the day, the right tech stack won't build your product for you. It's the founder energy in you that will. The late nights, the shipping when you don't feel like it, the refusal to quit when the agent hallucinates for the 40th time in a row. The tech stack just makes sure that the energy doesn't get wasted along the way. Alright, so if you're still here, you and I are on the same frequency. Drop your current tech stack in the comments below. I read every single one, and if I spot a stack that's going to fight you in 6 months from now, I'll tell you straight. Subscribe if you're serious about building and shipping. Share this with that one friend who's surfing the agentic coding or the vibe coding wave without knowing a thing about tech stacks. And see you in the next one. Until then, stay on the frequency, keep building.